Hi there, today we are building a foldable workbench or table or just office table. Anything you would like to work on it, write on it or put something on it, and if you need more space, it will fold down. And if you like this kind of projects, subscribe to my channel because there is more and more coming. I decided to buy and use an oak slab, but you can use an OSB slab which is much cheaper. Mine is 2 meters long and 60 centimeters deep. First off, we need to decide the height of our table. If it's going to be a writing table for you, you can simply copy some standard like office desk height. In my case, it was 107 centimeters because I want to stand by that desk, that workbench, and work on my bikes, but also I will be able to park my highest full suspension bike underneath. And if you want to keep some, let's say, cabinet under the table, make sure it folds up, and this is what I initially wanted to do with my table, but finally it folds down. You will see why. My slab isn't that thick, it is just 19 millimeters thick, so mounting it on 3 hinges to the wall and hanging on 2 bicycle chains should make this construction stable. Each of those 3 hinges will be assembled to the slab with 2 bolts and to the wall with 4 anchors. Now, choosing the bolts. Make sure your bolts look nice, so if they had some decorative heads would be great. Make sure they will also fit to the holes in your hinges and the holes you will make in the wood. It would also be very helpful if you could use the wrench of the screwdriver on one side of the bolt while screwing the nuts, so that the bolt won't be spinning when assembling the nut to the bolt. So really take your time when choosing the right bolts, nuts and the spacers. Since I have 3 hinges on my 2 meters long workbench, one will be exactly at the middle of it, and then the second and the third one on the sides, but not all the way to the side. Just make sure that assembling your hinges will make the whole construction stable and stiff. You see me now assembling the hinges over the desk because initially I wanted the workbench being folded upwards to the wall, but then I decided to put some graphics on the glass just over the board, and those hinges would be just on the way. That's why I will make those holes in the walls twice, because finally I will do it upside down. And yes, don't drill through the cables in the wall. Leveling is important. You don't want to lose any pans, or in my case, for example, balls from the bearings I will be servicing here. As you can see, my hinges are still facing upwards, which means those holes will have to be fixed afterwards. Now, if you decide to do it just like I'm doing right now, so fold the workbench upwards, remember that you will need additional locks for the desk, so that the desk won't just fall down, because it will be hang on the chains, but when it goes up to the wall, then you need to lock it somehow. Anchors. What type of extracting anchors in the wall to use? I was using 6mm anchors. My walls are fine, but for the most walls, probably 6mm or 8mm would be great. I'm using 12 of these, as you know, 4 for each of my hinges, so I'm pretty sure this will be just stable enough and durable. My 3 hinges are ready now. It's time for the mounting hoops, these eyelets you can see right now. Don't mount these too close to the wall, because there will be too much leverage working on our anchors. And on the wall, don't mount these hoops, these eyelets, too close to the desk or too low. I would say that the 45 degrees angle of those chains will be great. You will see that in a second. By the way, guys, can you recognize what podcast am I listening to in the background? I know not all of the walls are so pleasurable to drill through, but mine are just great and I had a lot of fun mounting all this stuff. It's time for the pittons. These are the pittons I liked, some matte gray. You need 2 of those. And then 2 old bicycle chains. Ask in your local bike shop whether they have some old chains. Probably they will give you some for free. After determining the length of the chains, you need to break the... Once again, please. After determining the length of the chains, you need to break those. You don't have to do it as you would do it on your bike, so do not replace the pin. You're gonna reuse the pin. Remember, when breaking the chain, don't push the pin all the way through. You want to have the pin still on one side of the chain, on one link, so that it will make your job much more easy when assembling the chain once again. This is the moment when you'll see smile on your face, when you lock the first chain and you say, yes, the job is done. It's time for some beer or some tea. This is how it folds down. Remember, if you have the folding upwards table, you will need additional lock. Since my project has changed on the fly, I need to fix some damages. As you can see, my workbench hasn't been painted yet. I'm gonna use wood varnish, explaining to you all 3 layers, how I put those and why I put those. But here's the thing I would do differently next time if I make such a workbench. I decided to assemble everything first and then to paint it, thinking that maybe I could damage the layers of the new paint while assembling all that stuff. It's much more work to disassemble everything and then paint it and then assemble it back. I would just paint my slab first and then do everything I would need, especially that I'm using the varnish, which will be quite durable. And I'll be putting 3 layers of the varnish. Preparing the wood, sandpaper. Unfortunately, you haven't seen the first phase of my work, which was rounding the edges of the slab. I was doing it outdoors and somehow I lost all that material from my SD card. So you haven't seen that, but those edges, as you can see now, are rounded and nice. Maybe during the work I would put some dirty stuff on it and I just cleaned it now with the sandpaper, but basically it was already ready for the varnish. I'm putting 3 layers on my working surface, which is the upper one, and 1 layer underneath, just to preserve the wood. This is the test of the varnish because I'm gonna use it also on my stairs if it's good. This is how I put the first layer. Make sure that the varnish won't drop underneath because it will make some not really beautiful spots on it. This is how it looks like wet after first surface. Time for the other side. Make sure you give enough time for each layer to dry out, otherwise the table will just be more smelly for more days. If you do it at home, it's very, very important. I'm using a matte varnish. I don't want my table, my workbench to be too shiny because of the cameras. I don't want to see the lighting, the source of the light in the cameras. But just know that with each additional layer it becomes more and more shiny. Use the sandpaper before putting another layer of the varnish. In that way it will be just nice in touch. It will be like more slippy, nice looking. And then of course take off the dust, and now it will be ready for the second layer of the varnish. And after third one it got really it got more shiny, but it got also hard and really slippy in touch. This is the second layer, still wet. And this is the second layer, which is already dry. The manufacturer recommends about 20 hours. I was giving 24 hours for each layer. Now I'm preparing the surface for the third and the final layer of the varnish. And it's a little bit too much shiny. I can see the source of the light in it. We also felt the smell of my studio in the whole house for a couple of days. So doing it outdoors would be much better. Now I'm just preparing the walls for the paint, and we're gonna assemble the workbench. And you see here I'm gonna glue the glass with some nice graphics onto the wall. That's why if those hinges were higher, those would be in the way of my beautiful graphics. You will see that in a week or two. Now the phase of the work I don't have to explain to you. I'm gonna present to you just in a second how this whole thing works. I'm loving it. Ta-da! Here it is, guys. Initially I was worrying about the thickness of this slab. 19 millimeters is just enough for this length. 2 meters, that's a lot. I can fold it down, I can park the bike here just beside it. I can also have it hang on my chains, and it's also stable enough, and park the bike underneath. It will be just in case I have too many testing bikes, one will land right here. It works great, and I can't wait to see your projects. Yeah!
I saw you dancing like